What's up, Copy Squad? It's your boy Kyle Milligan coming to you live from Boca Raton, Florida. And today I want to talk about breaking through some creative barriers for copywriters. This is attuned to like breaking through writer's block. This also goes in with like, what do I write? How do you write 40 pages of sales copy? Like, how do you know what to put next, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And the lesson I got today comes from this book, Essentialism. The Disciplined Pursuit of Less. And this is kind of a common theme in my life. I really appreciate books like this, like The One Thing by Gary Keller. I love the minimalism book. I think it's called Everything That Remains or All That Remains or something like that. And I loved most reductionist books like this about minimalism and essentialism are really up my alley. And the essentialism, I'm running through it now, and I got to a story about Peter Drucker, who is the author writes, the father of modern management thinking, also a master of the art of the graceful no. And in this story that he's telling about Peter Drucker, he's trying to illustrate a point about essentialists, people who are in the disciplined pursuit of less, how they are very effective at saying no. And while I was listening to this story on Audible, the lesson that I got was actually quite different. I understood the lesson about no, but I actually got a lesson about creativity that I don't think was intended in this whole section. And I was like, wait a minute, that's actually a different lesson that I'm taking away. And it really stuck with me more than the ability to say no. So before we jump into that, I should probably drop my advertising banner. Copy Squad Inner Circle right there. That's where I help people out with their copy in a private group. You can go to copywriter.com/squad and check that out. I'm going to check the date. Today's January 1st. It's a Wednesday. Listen, January 4th, I'm raising the price. I've said this for months, and it's finally time. I've got a zillion trainings and calls and sales letter breakdowns in there, and I'm still charging the same price as day one when there was no content. So January 4th, the price is going up. And everyone who's in there now, you get to keep paying the same price, and everyone who comes in after will have to pay more. That's all there is to that. I've been stalling and trying to figure out how I'm gonna do that for forever. So what I want to do is share this story really quick. I'm going to share my screen, and I'll read this off to you. Okay, cool. So this is the Peter Drucker story, and I'm going to explain a lesson about creativity that I took away from this. So Peter Drucker, in my view, the father of modern management thinking, was also a master of the art of the graceful no. So the story they're telling in this book is about telling people no. When Mihail C., the Hungarian professor most well known for his work on flow, reached out to interview a series of creative individuals for a book he was writing on creativity, Drucker's response was interesting enough for him to quote it verbatim. Here's what Drucker said. "I am greatly honored and flattered by your kind letter, February 14th. I have admired you for many years and your work, learned much from it. But my dear professor, I'm afraid I have to disappoint you." So he says no, okay? So the story they're trying to tell us is about how to say no, but that's not what I walked away with. "I could not possibly answer your questions about creativity. I am told I am creative. I don't know what that means. I just keep on plodding. I hope that you will not think me presumptuous or rude if I say that one of the secrets of productivity, in which I believe, whereas I do not believe in creativity, is to have a very big waste paper basket to take care of all invitations such as yours. Productivity, in my experience, consists of not doing anything that helps the work of other people, but to spend all one's time on the work that God, the good Lord, has fitted one to do and to do well." Okay, cool. So what this was meant to demonstrate was that this dude knows how to say no and do it gracefully. But what I walked away with was this part right here, because this is an internal struggle I've always dealt with, where I've always had this weird feeling about creativity being a myth. And for me, I believe in this process or proceduralized method of creativity, whereas you're just constantly either in motion, in momentum, and I've talked about this before when I talk about evoking the muse in one of my past videos, where it's like a cycle. People think it's like inspiration, motivation, action, but really it's about taking action until you're inspired, and that generates motivation, which continually progresses this flywheel of positive momentum. And that's another concept that I kind of just came into recently. I read this book called Good to Great by Jim Collins, and he talks a lot about the flywheel for businesses. Essentially, these little consecutive movements turn this flywheel, this big, heavy flywheel that's really slow to get started and cranking, and then all of a sudden it's rolling and rolling and rolling, right? I look at creative barriers the exact same way. And I even noticed it today when I thought, I want to talk about this on a YouTube Live. And I realized I basically froze up. There was a period of my life when I did basically like 60 days straight. I went live every single day. I'd pull out my phone and go live. And it became one of those flywheel things, a momentum sort of activity where I would just sit down, I'd do it, I'd get off. And I've been puttering along on and off doing YouTubes over the last month or two, doing lives and stuff like that. And I sat down, there was no momentum. I was like, oh, what am I going to say? How am I going to do this? Should I plan it out? And 10, 20 minutes passed before I just decided to fire it up and see what happens. And I noticed that momentum, right, that productivity, that flywheel effort has impacts across all spectrums. And what does this have to do with creativity? I think it's the same thing with if I were constantly being on the lookout I was constantly consuming information, on the lookout for creative ideas for my YouTube channel, and I was absorbing all those raw materials. I'm always talking about that too. You need a bunch of raw materials, and this lends itself to the technique for producing ideas, which I'll talk about in just a second. If I was constantly doing that and then making videos, those videos would inspire future videos and so on and so forth. And the questions that I would receive from videos would inspire this, so on and so forth. So what I really thought when I saw this section of this book, and I took that, or do this here, these pieces of this quote, let me get this out of here. When I got this quote, I was told, I am creative. I don't know what that means. I just keep on plotting. That really resonated with me because I have this real issue with people thinking you have to be especially creative or talented. I don't really believe in talent. I believe in hard work. I believe in skills. And I think it's the same thing with creativity. If you're constantly flexing your idea muscles, James Altucher says, come up with 10 ideas a day, and eventually your ideas will have idea sex. When copywriters get stuck 3 lines into their promotion, right? And they say, I don't know what to write next. I say, do more research. That's what my mentor, Evaldo, used to tell me whenever I would get stuck. He would basically say, well, you haven't done enough research. Because what we need to do is pile in more and more raw materials, and a lot of it will be discarded. A lot of it will probably be overlooked or just not used or not relevant. But through the plowing through more, right? He just says, I am told I am creative. I don't know what that means. And this is the part that really struck with me. I just keep on plotting. That's what I say whenever someone says like I'm not creative or I'm stuck, right? And I've had this argument. I'll call out my man, Rob Braddock. Me and him go back and forth on this all the time. I tell him I'm not creative. I don't believe in creativity. And he's a big time fan of creative ideas and creative energy and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's a process. I can proceduralize it. I will do more research, and then I'll see something that I think is interesting. And for me, I believe that creativity is an external thing that you go out and find. I believe if you do 10 ideas a day, or you're constantly reading or consuming raw materials, as they say in this really short book called A Technique for Producing Ideas. I think it's by James Webb Young, but it's like a short 30-page book. If you're constantly plowing raw materials, these things will basically fester in your brain, and you'll draw connections from one piece of information to another piece of information, and that breeds creativity. For me, creativity is an external thing. I'm really interested to see what you guys think. Like, do you think you're just naturally creative? Because I think that there are people who feel that way, who have this like natural tendency to be creative and just have random ideas pop in their heads. And there's people who are more like, I guess you call it type A or analytical like me. I believe that I go out and find creativity. I don't believe that big ideas come from within as much as they come from the stew that I've piled together inside my brain. Connections are drawn, and then eventually, oh, what if you thought of it like this way instead of that way? Which is one of the reasons why, like this week, I've done so much reading. Like I just finished Good to Great by Jim Collins. I'm almost done with Essentialism, and I'm in the middle of Switch, which is by the guys who wrote Made to Stick, which is, those guys are awesome and their books are awesome. So far I recommend these books. They're really cool books. Get you thinking about like that flywheel idea. Like I think again, this line, I am told I am creative. I don't know what that means. I just keep plotting. I think that's the same thing, because I've had people ask me, like, when I was going live every single day, how do you keep going live every day? How do you keep coming up with content? Well, it seems like the more lives I do, the more content I come up with. And it's not that I come up with content and then go live. It just was in a process, a flywheel, a motivational upward spin. And that's how I feel about creativity. is the more you do something, the more you practice, the more you flex your idea muscle. James Altucher says 10 ideas a day. Our copy process that I stole from Joe Schriefer, the publisher at Agora Financial. Read a piece of copy, write a piece of copy, come up with an idea a day. These are daily practices. And I believe that maybe it does stir something inside you. Stephen Pressfield would say it calls upon the muse. And I really love that analogy, that the muse, inspiration, comes down and helps you out, right? I believe that it's something out there. It's in the universe. Even if you want to make it spiritual like that, I don't know if it comes from within you. I think maybe the information, the raw materials, it's your job to gather. It's your job to gather as much of that as possible and then call upon the universe or the muse or some sort of divine intervention by plodding along. I just keep on plodding. And that the craftsman, the muse, Stephen Pressfield says the muse loves the craftsman hard at work doing his craft, right? And that's something else that I felt really resonated from this quote. I'm going to pull it up just one more time. He says down here at the end, productivity, in my experience, and this is from Peter Drucker, the father of modern management thinking, okay? And this whole quote comes from Essentialism, by, was it George McKeown? Okay, he says, productivity, in my experience, consists of not doing anything that helps the work of other people, but to spend all one's time on the work the good Lord has fitted one to do and to do well, right? And that seems to resonate so much with this idea of the flywheel, calling upon the muse, and I tie that all to breaking your creative barriers, right? It comes down to doing the work that the good Lord has fitted one to do and to do well, not doing other stuff. That's basically like shiny object syndrome, right? Like ignoring distractions, getting down and focused in deep work. The more I read, the more solidified in my ways I become. But that's because the more I read, the more I see that it's the same lessons being spoken over and over and over again by different people from different generations using different words, but the message is always the same. It's about, like the one thing by Gary Keller, Essentialism here. And I need to memorize this author's name because I can usually quote most authors. I should have wrote it down. I'll find it. Anyway, I think it's George McKeown. So it's essentially like it's the same things over and over. It's really getting focused. It's about gathering as much raw material as possible and then also having a daily practice to stir the creativity, to break through these creative barriers where you're stuck. I don't believe it's some sort of super special gift or talent. I believe it's a procedure. It's a process of spinning a flywheel, a daily practice, getting yourself in motion. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. And I think whenever you're having these creative barriers, I think you can simply gather more raw material for whatever your thing is that you're trying to sell or whatever copy you're writing, whatever marketing campaign you're trying to build. It generally can be, a lot of your problems can be solved by just doing more research, getting deeper into what it is that you're trying to do and exploring further. Now, maybe you completely disagree with me on this and you think that, some people are just gifted, have more creative brains and thought processes. Maybe some do, maybe some don't. I might come back to you with studies on like neural synapses that fire more in creative people. And I think, again, those studies basically talk about neuroplasticity, meaning that you can basically train your brain to be stronger, just like you train a muscle. So your creative areas of your brain and stuff like that, you can train those to flex and fire better by practicing, right? I think on my gravestone, I think if I was going to put anything on there, like right now, I would just have the word practice. Because I think that everything that has been successful for me has been a result of focused effort and practice, and that is doing the same boring stuff very frequently. For me right now, it's just 2 hours of deep work per day. And I've found that that's grown me so substantially over the past year that in 2020, I'm going to be hiring, I'm hoping, at least 2 proteges, 2 mentees, 2 people to come on as junior copywriters, or maybe we don't call them junior copywriters. Maybe they're good enough that they don't need that title, but just to come on and work with me in like an apprentice sort of capacity at Wealth Press or maybe even Copy Squad. What do you guys think of this? I was thinking about maybe starting a copy talent pool inside Copy Squad, and I was going to call it Copy Squad Elite, right? We got Copy Squad Inner Circle, where right here, Copy Squad Inner Circle, kylethewriter.com/squad. We go over copy. We talk about sales letters. We bring in users copy and members copy. We look at all that stuff together. We had an awesome call last week. Josh Bellinger, who is a guru who's worked at Agora Financial and has his own financial publishing I don't want to say his financial publishing company, but he's got his own financial products and stuff. He came on, we talked about his company, what he's doing, how he's getting copy out there for his own products and stuff like that. So that's the Copy Squad Inner Circle. I'm thinking about creating just a talent pool of very highly qualified people, highly vetted copywriters only. It won't just be like pay $10 and you get in, or pay $100 and you get in, or pay $1,000. I'm thinking of the Copy Squad Elite, and that being people who pass very rigorous copy metric tests, verifiable results with data to say that this copywriter gets results. I think that would be like a cool idea. And I'm trying to figure out, what it is about Copy Squad that's great that I can do that nobody else can do. That's just a random tangent, has nothing to do with this live. Okay, I'm going to scroll through the comments and then I'm going to get out of here. I'm trying to keep these things from going to 45 minutes every time I hop on a live. Michael says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Michael. Thank you. Let's go. Happy New Year. What up, John? Perfect timing. You got in right on time. I've got some creativity, ebbs and flows. The more I think on an idea and have knowledge, the more I can dig deeper and get better ideas. Walking also helps. Yeah, there's there's actually like science to that too. Good to great. Be a hedgehog. Yeah, absolutely. So my hedgehog concept, I'm trying to develop that, right? I've been in the Copy Squad now. It started October of 2018. So October 2019 is about a year. Now I'm trying to get my hedgehog concept, right? What am I going to be the best at? Forging, you said, is frowned upon, right? What do you mean by forging? Forging, you said, is frowned upon, right? What does that mean? Shiny object syndrome is not easy to get over. Good thing to know is everything that glitters. Yeah, exactly. I mean, focus. Focus is like probably one of the most underrated. Essentialism, Greg McKeown. McKeown, right? All right. I mean, you're a great master. Your book is just amazing. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, so, okay, cool. So recap everything I was talking about. This creativity message that I got actually comes from this book, Essentialism, Greg McKeown, and it was about this graceful ability for Peter Drucker to tell people no. And what I walked away with was a completely different sort of lesson that was mostly about creativity when he says this line, I am told I am creative. I don't know what that means. And for me, I love that because he says next, I just keep on plotting. And that's how I feel about creativity, coming up with big ideas, coming up with all sorts of creative aspects and promo stuff and marketing materials, marketing campaigns. I feel like that's what it is. You just keep plotting. Some things will be big hits and everyone will celebrate you and say you're a genius and you're so smart. How did you come up with that? And they'll completely ignore your 40 failures before that. And they'll assume you're an overnight success. That's what everybody does. Okay. And then at the end, he says this other line, and productivity consists of not doing anything that helps the work of other people, but spend all one's time on the work the good Lord has fitted one to do and to do well. And for me, I think that also just reinforces this idea of being a craftsman, right? I'm not being distracted by other things. Think of it like this. You getting on Facebook, right? You getting on Facebook and scrolling through and being served ads is doing something that helps the work of other people. You're helping Big Mark. You're helping Mark Zuckerberg out make a couple bucks when you go on Instagram and you get served an ad. Every minute you spend on Facebook and you watch a couple videos, you spend another minute. You spend more time seeing ads and getting marketing revenue piling up, all that stuff, right? You are doing something that helps the work of other people, all right? And instead, what you should be doing is focusing on your deep work, your craft, spend all one's time on the work the good Lord has fitted one to do and to do well, all right? That's my very common rant on the craftsman lifestyle. By the way, any news in Dark Souls Copy Challenge will be open to public or Copy Squad only. So I'm going to, I announced that during holiday break, and I can't basically get it set up through the company until everyone goes back to work for a full work day. So I've kind of just been like antsy over here, like sitting on my hands, like, when can we do this? When can we set this up? So I'm hoping like in the next week I have official news for that and how we're gonna open that up. But I'm sure initially launch it to the Copy Squad guys who I'm in regular contact with, who I can talk to like every day about it and just kind of work it out with them and see how I want to make sure that it's very, 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 very difficult. If it's too easy, I'm going to have to up the scale. So I'm going to pitch it to some guys and see how it goes. And I don't want them to be able to get in the first try. Copy Squad Inner Circle, copywriter.com/squad. And I said, Saturday, I'm raising the price, right? So Saturday, January 4th, price is going up. It's just too cheap. Okay. Are any of these copywriting courses accredited? Give you certificates so they were? I don't know anything about that. Forging, as in copying someone's work. Yeah, don't do that. Don't forge. Don't. That's what do you plagiarize? You don't plagiarize. Boo. So keen for some briefs for practice. Man, as soon as I can get them to you, we're on the same page there, man. As soon as I can get stuff to you, I am going to get it out into the world because this is what I want to happen. This is my whole goal. Michael says, David, join the squad. You know what? That's a really smart idea, Michael. All right, guys, I hope this was useful. I hope this got you some ideas about breaking creative barriers for copywriters. I believe that it is a process that's external. You go out there, you find the information, you find the research, you find the inspiration. And I know that there's other people who would disagree with me and say, no, it's all a creative, like I meditate and it comes to me or something like that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Leave it in the comments below. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Hope this was helpful. Peace out. Copy Squad.